What is going on, everybody? Today we are going to talk about the Silver Sky SE with the maple fretboard. I think this is probably one of the most requested guitars of almost all time, and I finally got my hands on it. So let's see how good it is. So for those of you that have followed the channel for a long time, you'll know that I've had Silver Sky SEs in the past. I had when they first came out, and I also have had, and probably will have again, a American Silver Sky. I really like the Silver Sky, and I know that that's a polarizing concept for some folks, but I really like the guitar, and I know that there's a lot of folks that really do. I've got a couple of criticisms for this guitar, and to keep everything completely honest, that I'm not totally happy with. So we'll get into those things in a few minutes. For those of you that are not familiar with the Silver Sky, this is basically an S-style guitar. It's a John Mayer deal. The American one is alder. The import one is poplar. They weigh about the same. It's somewhere right around 7 pounds. It's just 3 single coils. It's got their version, PRS's version of the import version of the John Mayer pickups in it. It's got regular Strat style switching. The bottom tone control works on the bridge pickup, which is sweet. Normal 5-way switch. Where it kind of differs from a regular Stratocaster is we have a 10-inch, 8.5-inch radius on the fretboard. So instead of a 7 1/4 or a 9 1/2, it's sort of in the middle at 8.5. It feels really good. I think it's got a 1.625 nut, and this is a synthetic bone nut. And I don't know if you've noticed that, but this is not a Strat style nut, but this is like a regular on the end style nut. So it's a different one than the American one. Of course, the ever so controversial 3x3 peg head on the Strat with the tilt back. It actually works very well. Tuning stability is really nice. Of course, you don't have to have string trees with it. As controversial as it is for some people, it really works well. The design, this particular setup and this design and the angle with the scarf joint and everything, it works awesome. Functionally, it works awesome. And to be honest with you, hot take, but I think it's better than a Fender in that respect. I think this actually works well, as much as it sort of flies in the face of the traditional, what we expect to see up there. But I really like it, and I think it works really well. This is the import version, so there's a couple of different things here too. Obviously, we've got, it says John Mayer Silver Sky SE on the back. The Silver Sky American one doesn't have a back cover, and this is actually not milled in to the back of the cover. Probably CNC time would dictate that, I would imagine. Of course, it's got a 2-post tremolo instead of a 6-screw tremolo. That works very well. It's pretty sweet. It's got a maple neck, maple fretboard, frets, birds, all the things. I really like it. This guitar is actually really cool. Here's the problem. There are some problems. Let's get into the downsides of this instrument. First of all, the pickups. I am a massive fan of single coil pickups. And as you know, let's just get this out there, I am a pickup guy. I make pickups for a living. So to find fault with stock pickups is pretty easy for me because I listen to these things every day and I work with them every day. And this morning when I was playing this thing, and over the weekend as I've been playing it, the thing that I kind of finally figured out is when these pickups compress, they don't just compress. The signal doesn't compress down and become this really nice compressed signal with all of it there. The top frequencies just kind of just get shaved right off. And if you follow my channel at all, or you follow my pickups at all, you'll know that clarity and definition is really important to me. Clean, they are phenomenally good, super good. But once you add a little bit of compression to them, they start to flatten out. And that's just a thing that I personally don't like. You may love it. So I'm not saying it's a right or wrong. I'm just saying I personally don't like it. And so our replacement pickups, we make pickups for these specific for this particular guitar, the SE. And we also make them for the American one, but they're different. So the SE version puts that clarity back in it. So we're going to be putting a set of my pickups in this guitar at some point. We will be doing that. We'll also be fixing a couple of other things that I don't like about this guitar. One is because John Mayer wants the thing to be slammed, the vibrato to be slammed, which you may like. You may like it just to be completely slammed because you don't use it that much. I like it to be floated on the guitar so that you can do like the Jeff Beck kind of warbly kind of stuff. So I like it to be floated. So we're going to actually do that too. We're going to float the guitar, float the tremolo on this guitar. This leads me to the biggest issue that I have with this instrument, and it is the change in the neck. It is a maple neck and a maple fretboard. I'm not a fan of maple necks and maple fretboards. I'm about to contradict myself, but we'll get into that in a minute. But I don't like this one in particular, and I'm going to tell you why. In our first PRS Silver Sky SE video, I completely raved and ranted and raved about how amazing their fretwork was. In fact, we had a Fender made in Mexico Player Series Strat, which was the same money in the United States at the time of making that video. And the fretwork on the Silver Sky was completely worlds apart better than the Fender. It was perfect. The fret ends were polished. It was amazing on the rosewood version. That is not so with this guitar. The level of workmanship on this guitar, and most of the time I will say, yeah, fret ends are kind of part of an environment and, blah, blah, blah. Like I will say that, sometimes because it dries out as it's shipping, whatever, but there is genuine laziness of workmanship with this guitar. Let me show you a couple of macro shots right up here where we can see just some huge gnarly fret ends. And you might not be able to realize that that's what that is in these shots, but when you feel it, it's jagged as all get out. And then there's a bunch of them all over the fret, all over the neck. The problem is that you can see if you start down here at the nut and then you go, it's kind of okay, but not perfect, kind of okay, but not perfect, kind of okay, but not perfect. After here, they just didn't care. It's just like really, really bad right up here. That happens a lot on some guitars, on a lot of brands of guitars, but typically PRS is kind of just really good all the way around. I was not impressed at all. Now the frets are level and flat and they feel nice and they play great, but the fret end dressing on this guitar is nowhere near the polish and quality that the ones came before it on the rosewood fretboard. Other thing that I feel, this is just an opinion, but what I feel is a little drop off in quality is the finish of the neck. So the fretboard obviously is different because it's maple, but the finish on the back of the neck is cheaper feeling. It does not feel nice like the Silver Sky SE with the rosewood fretboard. I just feel like it's just not good. It just feels cheap. Especially when you compare it to, this is my American-made Fiore. Of course, this is an American-made guitar. But I would say that the rosewood fretboarded SE felt a lot more like this, where it was a semi-glossy, it wasn't flat, but it wasn't all the way cheap feeling flat like this guitar, but it also wasn't glossy or finished. It was kind of like this. It feels really nice. And that also makes the seam between the maple and on the fretboard and the maple on the neck kind of go away. It just feels a lot smoother. And I feel like the other SE guitar with the rosewood fretboard felt a lot better. Like this guitar, it felt very close to the American Fiore kind of flat sort of feeling. This particular SE that I have in my hand with the maple, not so good. And then finally, the thing that I don't like is they went with this gray plastic fretboard inlay, which, as we are all aware, a lot of us don't like this gray plastic stuff as it is, and they just used more of it in the inlay. This is obviously personal opinion, but why didn't they just use the kind of faux mother of pearl stuff that they used on the rosewood guitar? I think it would look better than this flat, it's like primer gray plastic on here. That's just a personal opinion. It's whatever. It's also on the side dots. So it's just sort of a personal opinion that I have. I don't really think that means much, but whatever. It's just kind of how I feel about it. But the finish on the neck and the fretboard, the fret quality was a real letdown for me with this guitar. We have a solution. We're going to go ahead and do the things that need to be done to this guitar. We're going to put pickups in it, obviously, which is not necessary if you like how the guitar sounds. I personally am a pickup guy, so that's what we're going to do. That's what we always do around here. I'm going to float the tremolo, which also, personal opinion, you might not like that at all. You might want to just completely leave it flat. But one thing that I am going to definitely do is we're going to redress the fret ends on this guitar, and I'm going to make a video when we do all these mods, and I'm going to show you how we clean this up. Because if you have this problem, this same problem on yours, or if you have the same problem on any other guitar that, you get it and it's got a couple of little edges like this, that we can fix it. Now, am I saying that this is not a guitar worth keeping or not a guitar worth getting? Absolutely not. I am not. This guitar is fantastic. I've been playing it all weekend. I think it's great. I am just a little bit disappointed in the drop-off in attention to detail that PRS is typically known for. Now, one of the things we should also say about this is a sample size of 1. This might be 1 guitar. As we are mostly aware, PRS typically is very good about quality control, and so maybe this is a sample size of 1, and maybe I just got a funky one, because that does happen to me sometimes. The one thing that I will say is probably not my sample size of 1 is the finish on the back of the neck and the overall look of the neck, obviously. And let me know what you think about it in the comments. Do you think they should have went with Mother of Pearl, or you think they should have went with gray and a little bit glossier of a finish on the back of the neck, just to make it to where it doesn't feel cheap? That's the only other 2 things that I would say. Obviously, you can have your whatever opinion you want about the color, but I really, really like it. This guitar will be made available to one of you. I will probably sell it in the future. I got a couple comparison videos I want to do with it. I want to say also thank you to our Patreon supporters, because that is who makes these kinds of video reviews possible. When we say stuff like this about various guitars and various brands, sometimes, a lot of times, they don't like to send me stuff for free. So the only way we can do it is with the support of all of you from Patreon, from YouTube members, and super chats and super thanks, the little button down there, all those sorts of things. That's what makes reviews like this possible. So I appreciate it, because I had to buy this guitar. This was not sponsored in any way. It cost me, shipped to my door with tax, $912 or something like that. So there you go. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you in the next video.